Matt. Matt. We're gonna start. There we go. Okay, before we call the meeting to order, just to be aware that this meeting is sent out via electronic means, and so if you're speaking, we ask that you come up to the podium so everybody can hear and see. And so with that, we will call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And you may have noticed Josh Moore is missing today. He is called in sick, so we will lose him. We're at the point public forum. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak at public forum? If not, we'll move on to the agenda. David, I see we've got some additions.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have two additions. If we could add consent agenda item number 3.1, a timber auction sale of some storm damaged timber. And then consent agenda item number 5.1 to authorize a change in status of a dispatcher from full-time to part-time.
Ludwig will move as amended.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Ludwig, second by Waldham. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the approval of the minutes of November 15th, 2022, regular county board meeting and summary for publication.
Lufgren will move.
Second, Ludwig.
Got a motion by Lovegren, second by Ludwig. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes and reports, correspondence, the land surveyor monthly report for November. General canvassing board minutes from November 16th, 2022. Joint meeting of the board and zoning board for October 27th, 2022. And the Pine County zoning board minutes from October 27th, 2022.
I'll move those.
Second.
Got a motion by Lovegren, seconded by Ludwig. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We moved to the consent agenda along with the two additions. You've had that in front of you for several days.
So moved. Ludwig.
Second.
A motion by Ludwig, second by Lovegren. Any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to the Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. And Barb has a team here to enlighten us,
I hope that's true.
or will be.
At least be one part, it's going to be really fun. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and guests. My name is Barbara Chavian. I'm the CEO for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, serving 11 counties, including Pine County. My staff and I are actually honored to present to you today in person after meeting virtually due to COVID pandemic. It's really nice to return to something that I think is normal. And I also want to thank you for that great welcome when we have a singer, we have cider, and we have cookies. I mean, this is like my staff were saying, this is like what we'd like for all of the counties to do. So I took a picture just to let them know. So anyway, well, year 2022 actually marks our 38th year together as partners in workforce development, supporting members of Pine County looking for work, local businesses in need of qualified workers. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services serves youth, adults, dislocated workers, public assistant clients, veterans, diverse populations, local employers, and much, much more. Today, you will hear a client success story from Pine County and the impact and the success of our great partnerships together. I'm going to turn this to my next slide. The agenda we have is really twofold. The first part is the business section, which I and Tricia will do. And under federal law and state statute, I am to bring you the annual fiscal audit. Also the annual program performance report, which is in the right side, hand side of your black packet that's sitting in front of you. And of course, I'm bringing you the commercial insurances because we do have a change. And then the county demographics from Luke Reiner, who's our LMI regional analyst, is also on the right-hand side, because what he wants to do, what the board has asked me to do, and the Joint Powers Board has asked me to always bring this information so that you have this, and when you go to your other meetings, you have it right there at your fingertips. But the most important part of the agenda today is really about what's happening right here in Pine County. So I'm going to go to the next one. These are the 11 county commissioners that reside on our Joint Powers Board. I am ex officio and also director over the 11 county area. So instead of me going through all of them, letting you know who they are, because you know most of them and how many years they have served, I would like to pause for just one moment to recognize Commissioner Steve Hallen for his outstanding leadership on the Joint Powers Board and his dedication and passion for service to Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services and the citizens of Pine County. Commissioner Hallen has served on the Joint Powers Board for 9 years, since 2013. During this time, he has demonstrated his partnership, his leadership, and his understanding of the complexities of workforce development, and attended the following Joint Powers Board trainings so that he could get up to speed. In 2015, he attended the Workforce Development Board Legislative Breakfast, which we have another one tomorrow. In 2016, he was really wanting to really get the heads up, and he did a lot of training in that year. He attended with me the National Association of Workforce Boards Forum in Washington, D.C. This is the top training for all Joint Powers Board so that they can understand what workforce development is about. It's like a 4-day trip, a 4-day thing where we have to go to the Hill and everything else. So I know that his boots were probably a little worn out when he got done. He also attended the Region 3 Leadership and Planning Board. It was a joint board between Stearns and Benton in our 11 counties. And also in 2016, he also went to the Workforce Development Board Summit. It was called the Face of the New Employee Workplace Diversity. And then in 2008, he went back. He was also at the Legislative Breakfast. And then in 2021, he attended the Minnesota Association of Workforce Boards virtual summer meeting, which that summer meeting is normally in Duluth. And it's just another training for Joint Powers Board members and Workforce Development Board members. Commissioner Hallen, I want to thank you for your support that you have been for me for the last 9 years. Appreciate it deeply.
Thanks.
And this is actually the map of there's 16 workforce development boards in the state of Minnesota. I'm the director over the kind of a bluish greenish up there. It looks more blue, but it's wrapped around the metro area, which is truly a blue area. And it's called LWDA, or the Local Workforce Development Area 5. So all that area is where Central Minnesota is over, and I'm the director over those 11 counties. What I wanted to bring to your attention is the 14 sites on the right-hand side. For Region 3, Cambridge and Mora are the career force centers in this area. Specialized centers include Forest Lake, Malacca, North Branch, Pine City, and Sandstone, right in your backyard. So you were well covered. This is the annual report that is in your right-hand side of your packet. It's a trifold. And it will get you up to speed on some really great success stories and also tell you about all of the services that we provided over this last year. This is a commercial insurance, and so I'm gonna not be able to see it that far. So even though I got my glasses on, I'm gonna pull my own sheet, and your sheet is in there and it says schedule of insurances. I believe it's on the left-hand side, but at the very bottom, it says policy type cyber. The Joint Powers Board in 11 counties requested that Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services increase our cyber insurance to a $2 million limit packet. This request was important, it was appropriate, and it was timely due to the many attacks that we are receiving where that is happening. I mean, anyone that has to serve in any way, the way the board does, you are going to get some hacks. By the time I drive all the way back from here, all the way back to Monticello, I'll probably have 5 or 6 that are sitting in the queue to destroy. And they're caught because we have done a really good job in looking at those issues. So that's what I have for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tricia.
There you go. Good morning. I am here to bring to you the annual fiscal audit. So it's in your packet. It shows that we have managed over 82 grants this fiscal year. We have had no issues of concern or material weaknesses. On page 4 of your audit, you can see that we've managed over $6 million in revenue this year. They come in, they look at our accounts payable, they look at our bank transactions, they look at our participant files to make sure all is in line, and come up with a conclusion that there's no areas of issues. There's no material weaknesses. So it's a clean audit again this year. And then now Commissioner Holland will see when he comes in tomorrow, our audit present for this fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022, which also proves that there's no issues or concerns. So another clean audit. Oh, this is the last page. I'll turn it over to Diana.
Good morning. I'm Diana Ristomaki. I'm the Youth Program Manager for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, and I'm also the Regional Manager, so I kind of oversee all of those northern sites that were on that list, including Pine City. So if you ever have questions, just stop in and say hi. Today, our success story is a youth participant, and he was part of what is called our Operation Exploration Camps. We held 6 different camps across our 11 counties. And the one that we held here in Pine County was out at the 49ers Training Center. It was a week-long camp based on the different trades that we can offer. It was in conjunction with some of the union training centers. Each day the youth came to camp and they were able to just learn about the particular trade. And it was amazing. We have a little clip here that's going to kind of give you an idea of what they did. But for example, the first day the kids were able to build walls. Second day, the electricians came in and they showed them how to wire what a wall would be, how to put in outlets, put in, the lights, making sure the light went on just so that they did it right. They did rebar, they poured cement, they went to a couple different union training centers just to kind of see what their environment was. And they were able to operate some of the heavy operating equipment, which was just amazing. So we're going to give you a little bit of a clip. The first part is really based on the kind of what we did out at the 49ers. And then the rest is really truly all of our 6 camps kind of put together. So you can go ahead and play it. So as you can see from all their smiling faces, it was a good success. And we had some amazing, amazing partners that just came to the table and was making it a success. So the young man, one of our young mans that went through the camp is our success story today. So Michelle's going to kind of come and talk to you about his journey after camp.
Hi, so I'm Michelle Presley Johnson. I've been with CMJTS for 13 years and this was probably my favorite camp ever. So I got to stay there, be with the kids all day, and Jace was one of our young men that attended it. He is now a senior at Hinckley Empower Learning Center and will be graduating, and he turned 18 and 2 days later went and got his license. So he has now got the transportation. He has a job set out in the community education department out at the casino. So once he graduates, he will be able to get that job. He enjoyed the heavy equipment, the backhoe, the skidster. And the other stuff, he's told me at the end of the camp, he is not into physical labor whatsoever. And so he will not be going into any of these careers. However, he said that after doing this, because all the kids that were there probably would never had an opportunity to do any of that kind of stuff or be part of the trades. And so he said he'd rather do my job. So he wants to work with kids. He wants to be able to bring things to kids in his community that they obviously would not get anywhere else. So that kind of made me feel good. I don't know. I mean, he's a great kid. He did work hard, and I told him that I was very thankful for his feedback. But he did enjoy it. He will be also doing OSHA training with me this school year, so he can get some of that stuff too. And then he also wants to do his PCA certification too, in case he decides he wants to go down that road or working with kids with disabilities in the schools or something like that too. So, any questions or?
How
It
many kids were at that camp?
So was there 8 or was there?
There was 9 in the Pine County one, but
Yep.
we had 62 across all of them.
Yep.
And how do you recruit?
Yeah, so we work with the schools. We worked with the band, Mille Lacs Band, on this one too. They were the ones that provided the meals and stuff, the lunches. We went and just talked to schools, kids that were already on our caseload, going to them and just saying, is this something you're interested in? It's a 5-day event, and I think we were there 9 to 4, 9 to 3:30. They did get a stipend at the end for attending, so they did get a little bit money for doing that too, and participating. So it just kind of, they're from everywhere that we can get them from.
You did healthcare and heavy equipment. So if I only wanted to do healthcare, did I go to a different camp or did I do all of it?
So last year we did one up in Onamia for the healthcare.
Okay.
And then what county did one was it the South? That did one too.
They kind of had a choice between either health care or like a mixed camp. This one in Pine County was focused just on the trades just because of our partnership, but some of the ones in the other area, there was like a mix. So they did welding and manufacturing and automotive and carpentry were kind of those, we tried to target the labor market. What's, kind of what were the job openings in our current counties and trying to focus kind of on that area as well. So the kids had those experience and kind of hoping to keep them here as well.
The 49ers is a phenomenal facility. So
Oh.
I mean, a great choice, but have you thought about Pine Tech? Because they have all the other things that you were looking at, and they're also, they're so willing to work with kids and to bring kids into things too.
We do, but the youth we serve aren't all college bound kids. And so we wanted it to be in an environment where there wasn't promotion of those types of programs. We wanted them to be able to think about the trades, to think about college, to think about, I don't want to go to college. I just want to go into work. We wanted that environment where they had kind of options and choices.
So where else did you go then? You went to
We had one at the 49ers. We did one at Mille Lacs Healthcare System in Onamia. And then we had one at Wright Tech Center in our central location. Monticello Schools was held one for us, so that was our healthcare camp. And then down in Bridgewater College, we had 2 of them there.
So on your video, you had the cars on the hoist and then you had welding. That wasn't done at Pine Tech then?
No, that was done at, those were done at Wright Technical Center. So it was an actual school consortium that's in our central location.
That's in Buffalo.
Full, yeah.
A lot of, I mean, a lot of stops. You bust the kids from place to place, obviously, or how long did that whole process take to go to these multiple? Was it?
They was just in one spot. So Wright Tech actually they have all these different career places right on site. So for them, they were just on site the whole time. Same thing with the 49ers on site. Central or our southern areas, kind of in our Wilmer areas, a little bit more difficult. We did have to transport kids, not, to some other areas besides Ridgewater College, just so that they had exposure to, some of the business tours. We did some business tours down there. So it was really, each camp was different because it was just really based on the community need at the time.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you
Nice.
much. We're all in this whole thing together, and anything we can do to elevate kids into a career,
Oh,
Or
yes,
into,
definitely.
um, experience to help them be a productive member. And we're happy with that. So thank you.
We appreciate your support.
I just wanted to end with something more personal. Mr. Chair and members of the board, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the board, the staff and the citizens of Pine County for honoring Commissioner Steve Chafee's legacy. And naming the Pine County Government Center new conference room under his name, and also providing him with this wonderful white pine next to Dougie's. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Barb. And thank all you people for what you do. We're moving. One thing you forgot to mention, Barb, in this period of time that I've been on the board, we kind of transitioned Pine County back into the workforce centers fold. We were separated for a while. My mind never could get my arms around all of that, but I think it makes sense now. And so that was a big undertaking, and yeah, I think we're where we need to be now. So thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the IT tech.
Grab some cider.
Grab
cookies
some
and-
cider and cookies, because
It's kind of exciting going from the great Christmas music to some jazz stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for coming up.
if you wait until the end of the meeting, we're gonna have a potluck. So the next thing on our plate is consider the ordering of a public hearing. The naming of a lake. There is a lake. I haven't been to that lake, but Kelly will tell us where that lake is.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just have to start with an antidote that I just have to laugh because every time I turn around, there's something new the county auditor does. So naming of a lake. Here we are. So I received a petition to name an unnamed lake in Nickerson Township. It is a small lake that mainly just resides on one property owner's property. And so as part of that process, I received a petition with at least 15 registered voters on it. And then it comes to you folks to set a public hearing. And then I have to do some publication of that notice of public hearing and then also serve it on the DNR commissioner and the chair of the town board. So today I'm just asking you to schedule the public hearing for January 17th at 10 a.m. at the North Pine Government Center. And then I will take care of the publication and notices that have to go out. Questions?
My only question is, I'll let these people.
Go ahead, you went
My only question is the date. Cause I'm gonna request January 17th meeting get moved to the 24th. But I think we don't do that until the first meeting in January, so that's gonna screw up the 3-week notice.
Right.
So. I don't know what we do about that. We do it in February? I mean, does it have to be done in January?
It does not have to be done in January.
It has to be done at least 30 days after today.
But there isn't like a not more than. And I guess I would like to do it at a Sandstone meeting just because
Yeah,
the lake is north.
And maybe the rest of the board doesn't want to move the meeting to the 24th. It's just for a selfish reason for me. I'm gonna be traveling that day. And so what I learned at the open meeting law is, I mean, we already knew that. I can't tell you where I'm gonna be, so I can't remote into the meeting. I don't need to be at the meeting, but,
I'll be mobile also, but I think I have a location for that. And then my other thing was, I was just curious of how this was laid out. Because when I first seen it, I'm thinking, okay, where's the lake? It wasn't in print. Where's what newspaper? Because is it gonna be in a northern newspaper then? Because usually I think,
It has to go in the official county newspaper. However, of course, you guys don't name the official county newspaper till January. So I was planning to just
Gotcha.
put it in both the
Okay.
North Pine and the Pioneer to make sure we're covered. And it sounds like the bid from the newspaper might be putting it in both anyways.
I got you. Okay. All right. That's in. up
So
north.
it has to happen 30 days from today.
Doesn't have to,
least.
at least, so
What?
we can't do it sooner than 30 days.
Can't be so.
So we couldn't do it at the first meeting in January.
but we could do it at the second meeting in February.
So that it's in Sandstone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, the lakes went this long without a name, a little longer.
Yeah,
probably. Let's see.
I agree, JJ. I mean, it's gone a couple 100 years without a name, maybe another month's one.
I'll move to have it the second meeting in January
I'll second.
Second meeting in February.
or February. Okay.
I'll second it.
Is there any other discussion and that'll work?
It's a pretty little lake.
Any other questions, discussion?
One question.
Yes.
Is there any names thrown out there yet?
They're proposing to name it Bloom Lake after the late Walter Bloom, who has owned the property
He homesteaded it.
80 plus some years.
BLUM.
BLOOM.
Oh, man. Huh.
Yeah, and it can't be named after a living person.
Correct.
They have to be dead.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
That should
Well,
say-
You'll learn a lot.
There's still heirs of alive.
Yeah, but it was
Right.
probably named after a different one, you know.
What was the last name?
It's after the late Walter L. Bloom, and I think
Walter's
that's
passed
why the
away, yeah.
petition's very clear
Right.
on who it's after.
I only say that because there's a,
Yeah, I
lake-
know.
there's a lake right across. the
Well,
freeway
lineages
that-
go forever, I guess.
That's named, that's
Hopefully.
named after my.
Yeah.
Wife's.
I know.
Name. And that wasn't named after. Anybody's first name, it's just the last name, is Kicks Lake.
interesting.
She's still alive.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just for the record in that motion, the second meeting in February would be February 21st. Is that correct?
21st?
All right, yes, I suppose we do need a date. instead of
2022.
this.
And that would be at 10 a.m. in Sandstone, North Pine Government Center.
February 21st, so that's what the motion will read. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Are you gonna stay and tell us about? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a second. That was a second. Not a minute.
Help America Vote Act.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I've been before you quite a bit over the last year with these different grants for elections equipment. And we did a very similar grant back in the spring in which we received about $29,000 of these funds. And when the initial funding came through, not all counties applied. It was a pretty extensive process to apply. Ryan and I had several meetings trying to figure out how we apply and all of this. Yeah, it was extensive. So some counties chose not to apply, but with that meant there was still funds that were available for those of us who did apply to get a second round. So our second round, our phase 2 dollar amount is just under $4,300. And in thinking about it, I thought we could do two different things with it. The first is we could just use it to help offset the purchase that we've already done. However, we used only about $20,000 of county dollars for that purchase already, which was more than we had about $70,000 of elections fund balance anyways. So I would be proposing that we authorize signing the grant and that I am authorized to purchase 2 additional tabulators. Because the 2024 election, unfortunately, starting to get ready for that's only about a year away. And we have several jurisdictions in Pine County that either bring their ballots from their polling places down here and run them through the tabulator, or they are literally hand counting still. And many of those have said, we don't want to do that anymore. Could we get a tabulator at our polling place?
How many do we have altogether that don't have tabulators?
We have 8, but not all of them want a tabulator.
Oh,
But there are several that have expressed significant interest in having one. We had a couple jurisdictions that it took them till, smaller jurisdictions that took them till after 1 a.m. to get their ballots counted. And they said, we're not doing that again,
This was a small ballot.
right? So with this grant, there would still be about $7,200 that would need to be paid out of the election fund, which the fund balance is there to do
and we
that.
have money set aside. for
Right,
that.
we have money set aside.
That's what we have it for.
Are they all the same? It'll be the same consistent tabulators, the same make,
Right.
model, everything?
Right,
Just for consistency for
yes, and the programming doesn't work if you have a hodgepodge.
thing.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
We got a motion by Ludwig, second by Lovegren. To go ahead with this grant. Any discussion? More questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Housing and Redevelopment Authority, Economic Development, HRA Commission vacancy.
Mr. Chair, members of the
Yes.
board. Steve Oswald has moved, and so he has resigned his position on the HRA EDA board. And Commissioner Waldham is recommending Rick Lewis to fill the vacancy. And so step 1 would be to declare a vacancy and acknowledge Steve Oswald is no longer serving, and then to fill the vacancy.
Can we do that in one motion? We need a motion that basically says we acknowledge that this guy's leaving and we want to appoint Rick Lewis. I don't know Rick Lewis, so.
Yeah, I'd make that motion. Steve took employment up in Alaska for the DOT up there, position he held previously. It's an opportunity he couldn't pass up. And same with this gentleman that would take his position. He also owns apartments in the area, triplex in the area, in the county, in the district. He manages them, does the whole thing from snow plowing to lawn maintenance to basic repairs. And the management side, the lending side, he's also a realtor. He's been a realtor for 25 years, worked for different, and he also has held public office previously for the city of Sturgeon Lake. So I would make that, yeah, the motion to,
I'll second that.
yeah, to acknowledge resignation of Mr. Oswald and then make a recommendation to appoint Mr. Lewis for the position. If that's the right way to word it, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I'll second.
And Ludwig seconds, any discussion? Thanks for finding somebody in a timely fashion. No more discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Appointment to the East Central Regional Library Board.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there is an upcoming vacancy in January on the Regional Library Board, and Commissioner Lovegren has recommends Mary Burmeister as our citizen trustee. And so if you want to make that appointment, you can do that, and it would be effective January 1st through December 31st, 2025.
Yeah, it's hard to get somebody to be on this board. So she's been active in the Sandstone Friends of the Library System for years. I personally don't know her. But Becky Gady speaks very highly of her. So then we'll have Judy Cholene from Pine City, and we'll have Mary from. So I'll make the recommendation or the that we appoint Mary Brewmeister to the library board.
I'll second.
Motion by Lovegren, seconded by JJ. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Commissioner updates. Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, that meeting was just for their board. There was a little confusion on that. And so we weren't invited. As far as I know, Arrowhead counties,
Yeah, I went to that, Mr. Chair.
okay,
It was a general meeting going over the legislative priorities and, you know, the state, the PILT bonding or the PILT bonding for the justice involved female programming is on their list. I think I gave these to you before, increase in probation funding, equine improvements. And then there was a lot of discussion on the VR, the vacation rental by owner.
Yeah.
And we had that discussion now at AMC at our table afterwards, but. So there's questions there and taxation issues and they're kind of have the state have a discussion on that also on the classification side of that. Other than that, it was pretty much a general meeting and they were discussing their levies, like Cooch is at 22%, Cooch County. And they hope to bring it down. Cook is at 5.9. Itasca's 2.5. And other than that, it was pretty much just general discussion, nothing major.
all right. Broadband boot camp.
There is so much going on with broadband and you get all excited about this aspect of it and then they take it away and say that's not going to work. So actually, there's a lot of things that are coming from the FCC and I'm glad to see Tracy here because we can talk about how we can get this information to our citizens so that we can get the best information for our county and hopefully get the information that we need. But yeah, it's a lot of different things.
I think the most exciting thing that might happen to Pine County is there's a news conference at 1 noon today about the border to border grant applications, which we heard at the AMC conference that were at the governor's office waiting to be signed. I'm assuming that there may be an announcement concerning Pine County.
I hope so.
So that would change our world forever, probably.
It's really, if you go on and you look at the maps that the FCC's put together, it shows that Pine County is 100% covered. And we know that that's not accurate. You know, it's just not. But, you know, the problem with that is that CenturyLink can say that my area is covered because my neighbors got it. That's a half a mile down the road. And they'll say, oh, yep, they've got really good broadband, but it doesn't make it my half a mile down the road. And so it's showing that I have really good coverage, even though I don't. So we really need to get people together to get those maps fixed so that they can see how desperate we really are. It should be known that we're desperate because we're the second from the bottom, but yeah.
So I'm waiting with bated breath to see what comes out of this press or news conference today. And then we'll go from there. So tune in, Tracy. Extension Committee.
Josh went to that.
Josh went to that and Josh called in sick, but the one bit of news I know from Extension is that we got an email from Suzanne Heinrichs. Suzanne has been our regional coordinator for a number of years and just done a wonderful job guiding us through a lot of extension issues, and she's been recognized now by the University of Minnesota to move into a state, what is it, a
It's a
statewide?
statewide position, focused on ag and women in ag in particular.
She'll be really good.
So she will be dearly missed here, but maybe we have trained somebody take her place. Maybe. Lakes and Pines. It was a pretty normal meeting, but next meeting will be probably most interesting because many elected officials that sit on that meeting are retired now by January 1st off that board. So the board will take on a different look. And we got a brand new executive director. So, you know, they're continuing to do what they can do. The interesting thing that I find is there's so many things that are counterintuitive to me. That fuel prices are up for people that have to buy heating fuel. Fuel assistance dollars are down. So the people that need fuel assistance, there's less money in that pot to help those people. There's less money in the pot to help people fix their house, to make their house more fuel efficient than there was before. You know, it's just one of those things, and that's what Lakes and Pines, that's one of the areas they work on. So interesting. Technology committee did not happen. Legislative meeting. We did meet with Senator Rarick, Representative Nelson, and Representative-elect Dasev. Very good meeting. I kind of just got back to remembering the things that we've been working on. They're gonna have, especially in the Senate, they're gonna have different committee assignments than they've had before, because there'll be a different chair. Might be on the same committee, but it'll be different. So we'll figure it out. But we're still focused on things I think we heard at AMC. Just about every platform that we voted on yesterday at AMC were platforms that either we have supported, or in many cases, they started right here in Little Old Pine County. The Workforce Reduction Act, I think, is what Senator Rarick coined it as, but that started in Becky's divisions, and talking about, you know, we need to modernize HHS's way of doing things. And you don't think of that as a huge thing, but it is a huge thing when some of our workers spend up to 50% of their time typing in somebody's name and address and just kind of stupid stuff instead of doing the work they need to do. So,
Steve,
yes,
I think that's paperwork reduction.
paperwork reduction. Yeah,
Just
that's,
I think we pushed pretty hard on our standard priorities.
yeah.
Mr. Chair, does everybody at the county here have access to electronic everything? Did we completely 100%? Everything is electronic, or is there still paper people gotta shuffle through? I mean, what have we done here?
We do it electronically, JJ. The social worker does it electronically. But if you go to Becky and talk about something you need in your family, and they type in JJ Waldham, your address, blah, blah, blah. And then you also need to connect with another department. They gotta sit down and, if you order something on Amazon and you start typing in Steve Holland, everything populates.
Right, right.
You have to type that in. It's already there.
They gotta go through
Yeah,
and
and it's
they have to go through and type your whole name, your whole address, your whole everything.
No, that's a great thing. And I understand it's labor intense and you want to get better. But does that hold true then for everything? Just be, not for that department or that example, but maybe in that department. But if there's employees here that have to do this over and over, or just dig through old files and paper, maybe it's better towards Ryan. Does everybody have access to everything electronically to speed up their processes?
Well, I don't know
Yes,
exactly what you're,
can't. So like some of my job that I had here,
Yeah.
I still had paper copies of everything and I still had to manually, like, payments for forfeited land. I'd still have to manually figure out what their payments were gonna be because
Oh.
that's, so the state doesn't have the paperwork that we can work through on that. And so there's some things that we still do on paper and then we have to scan them and keep them and retain them. But we still have some paper things. that we
So you probably know this, but every department has a different computer system. They
Oh,
tie it,
boy.
they tie it at different parts of the state. Well, social services can't be hooked to taxes and so it's a whole different animal and the data in there is secure and protected because it's juveniles, families and stuff like that.
I see.
And the sheriff's office is exactly the same way.
Oh.
And that, that's not public data. So so we have how many different licensures, Ryan, that are, and they're expensive.
Wow.
So every department has a different, so it's, I know I think I saw you were going, they're not all on the same computer. They're all just completely different. The sheriff goes
Yeah,
through the DCA, they go through SSIS and Maxis and all these programs, and taxes go through, used to be CAMA or whatever it was, and now it's
Yeah.
what, yeah.
Now they're going to the web. They're
It's-
working on that.
it's easy for me to say,
Yeah.
make it like Amazon, but they can't.
Yeah, well, that's how I think of it too. It should be,
Yeah.
it should be easy and
It should be simple.
it should be, and everybody should have the same, access to it, employee wise here. If they need access to things, why dig through all the paper if they could?
Yep.
you know,
Well,
get something
we
fast?
have it, we have access. It's some of it is data privacy stuff and
Yeah,
some
well,
of it
that's,
is,
that I understand that.
some
portion.
of it
It's
is
so sensitive, the data.
antique software platforms that they're running on and they're expensive to upgrade and they haven't upgraded them.
Well, and the other thing is we've got employees that work those systems and they know how broken it is. But you've got an IT department down in St. Paul that doesn't work them and they don't understand the brokenness. So trying to get them to understand how broken it is and where to fix it is one of the key things.
Anyway, we're working on that as a legislative priority. Pine County Housing HRA EDA meeting.
Yeah, I went to that also.
Okay.
Of course, we covered part of it. One board member is leaving and has now been replaced. It was a general meeting as far as the business, but had the audit report. And a lot of discussion on that. And they found bank accounts scattered all over the place, so they're getting that all under control from the old board. So they closed 2 accounts and they're transferring dollars, and Kelly's all on board, and the county, because it's run through there, so they're doing the investment the right way. But the big thing that I think is that group, the mission has changed considerably, or maybe not the mission, but just the way they do the business. They're really after it, and getting on firm ground. It takes a while, it's kind of a new board, and Leslie comes to every meeting, or she has input, and Kelly's always listening to on the dollars, and Dave still spearheads. Dave, you can jump in here and add something too, but I think the board is strong, and I'm kind of bummed that Steve was leaving, because I think he was you know, he asked such good questions on like, what direction do we want to go? And, you know, what's the expectations of the county? And they know they represent the whole county. And he was, you know, strong leaders up north are as good and the strong leaders are south are good because that's how we get where we want to be. But I don't know, I think it's going the right direction. That's all. And I think it's a good board.
Yeah, and if I could just comment on the audit, it was a clean audit.
Yeah.
There were some findings. The findings for 2021 mirror the findings from 2019 and 2020 with internal controls and lack of documentation. And so with the movement to the new management company that happened in early 2022, we anticipate we'll still have some findings in 2022 because there was still the old management company was still in the mix for the first part of the year. But that we feel like Matt was indicating is behind us, right? That's a big piece of organizational, I don't want to say confusion, but just a lot of time was spent getting the finances straightened out. And we feel very good about that. The other news to share is Leslie is applied to be a small business development center, which will allow her to do work on behalf of local folks who need some business consulting and then charge her time back to the SBA. And so most counties in our neighborhood all do that with their economic development staff. And so Leslie has applied to be able to do that as well.
Thanks, Steve.
Snake River.
Snake River, we agreed that we would just go to tribal land and list it as tribal land. And that's really all that we did. We did agree to pay for, there's a piece of property in Pine County that wants some money to do some lakeshore development stuff. And so we did do that. It's going to be a good project to keep the water clean. And then we are not going to be meeting in December. We're going to wait until January now until we have a new board to go further on to what the organization will look like.
Thanks. NLX, did they meet?
NLX did meet. They are basically just very excited that we have new legislature and that they feel that it's going to start moving forward more rapidly now. There was somebody, the new House Speaker, I think it was there. And she was saying that she wants them to get a bill passed. So they wanted to find out who was going to write the bill and who would be behind it so that she could help promote it. So
Here's the one I've been waiting for. A report on the meeting with the Iron Pine Solar Project.
You want to start, JJ? On Iron Pine Solar? Or you want me to start?
Yeah, go right ahead. We were both there. We can step in.
I'm kind of interested in it, and at the same time, I was afraid. Just because of the, going into it, you don't know what, we heard all kinds of stories from the townships. The townships came to the zone, I'm on the zoning board, and they had mentioned that they had visited the town board. And, they said, well, you can't stop us, whatever, because they're it's a big enough solar field that it's gonna come to the Public Utilities Commission or something like that, and they do all the permitting and anyway, the group is, it's in its development stages, and the landowner is leasing to them, so the landowner will handle all the, like we hear about what happens after the fact, what's left behind, if it falls apart. Well, that'll happen really because the landowner is going to protect his land. So in that lease agreement, that'll be handled. The fascinating thing about it is it really is a spot where it doesn't have a lot of public eyesore except for the freeway side. There's not a lot of houses on that Rabine sod field and stuff, but it's going to be big.
is that where?
You can explain that kilowatt thing, but
Well,
it's a big.
Yeah, but what I took away, it wasn't, they didn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't come across as.
No,
we're gonna do this and you can't stop us.
Really friendly, yes.
Yeah, because they said, we want to be,
Yeah.
we're gonna be your neighbors. We're gonna be in the
Yeah.
community. We're gonna have a,
I didn't get that far. I didn't finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't pushy.
no, not at all, not at
They,
all.
they want to have public acceptance.
Yep.
And so all this reach out is to make it a smooth thing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it's gonna be
it's a chance for the province, probably the biggest private development money-wise project we've had in.
Yeah, they figured 5 full-time jobs and then a lot of contract jobs, because they have to have 24/7 access to all the panels.
But the construction of that thing is gonna be huge.
Yeah, it's gonna represent a lot of the trades from the foundation, the
Open.
dirt work, concrete to road building to not just the wiring, electrical side, but communications side.
And how many
I
panels is
I
that?
just think
1,000 panels, there's something
Yeah.
going there.
if there's something we should be doing to encourage, I just think it's a great.
I do too.
I
I
think
think-
if,
I think it's doable where it is too. I don't think you're gonna have a lot of, but we'll see. If. You know, that area of 61, there's a couple houses there, but most of the ones Ray buying stuff that you see when you look at the aerial photo, it's his
So-
shop.
It's a lot of, and it's a lot of relatives.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of neighbors already. What I'm gathering, they're not opposed to it. There's just some simple things I think could be worked through with hunting and stuff.
Yeah.
And then any kind of, there's laws in place right now, discharging a weapon so close to a home while hunting. You know, they're just worried about ever striking a panel accidentally when they're trying to have the rights of hunting yet around that area. So I'm sure that could all be worked through. I would hope.
I would think so. I just think, I've thought about that when people have talked about, well, what happens when it's done? So if,
That'll all be dealt with. That was our concern.
yeah, but if that is not the first question that would be asked of 3M if they were gonna build a building there.
No,
I mean, that's between the landowner, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
but they're really thinking about all aspects. They're like erosion, they're gonna plant the whole thing around the thing is gonna be pollinator plants that they mow and. You know, it's all gonna be seeded.
And this isn't their first, their only one. They've mentioned where they're located with other. And I didn't get any follow-up yet, because I did request, I think I got my notes here. I requested, can you give us three other examples? Yeah, where you're at, where you have a footprint in a same similar county, state, whatever, so we could maybe even reach out and ask and try to learn.
Yeah, he gave us those locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to their website and find their locations, but I think JJ's question was very specific. Find your 3 that are most closest to what this is.
Yes,
Right.
right.
And just
Through a lot of that time,
and Steve, I have to make a comment from the cheap seats on 3M.
Yep.
That if you live in the East Metro or Washington County, maybe you should have asked more questions than 3M went in. But the company's name is Swift Current Energy.
Yeah.
The project is Iron Pine Solar. So if you're looking for the company, they're out of Massachusetts. Their timeline is they want to get a certificate of need and the PUC permit by the end of 2023. And so they don't have to work through us. They have to get their permit from the PUC. They requested that we enter into a joint development or a voluntary development agreement with them, which we don't know what that would look like. But they, as Matt and JJ were pointing out, they want our support when they go to the PUC. And so that's the hook that we would have to have those conversations.
Yeah, and then if I can, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
The model they're setting up. All the panels are made in the USA, the company they're dealing with. And they have the panels they make now, they have a 35-year guarantee, I think it said 30 or 35-year guarantee on the panel. So that guarantee, so then. When it's up and running, so if anything happens, that company has to do the maintenance on that guarantee on the panel. And then they're aware of the recycling and all that happens. We had asked about that, but that's really the landowner lease agreement thing in that, but.
Yeah, when we asked about the manufacturing of the panels and for him to come with the answer that's made in America, was it even Ohio or something?
Yeah.
I got it in my other notes, but that was just good to hear that it's also made here and
Yeah.
it sounded like there was true assurances to that, that they would be,
It'd be awesome.
they would be purchasing. That's their first priority, is to try to get.
In the end, though, it all is gonna come down to what's gonna, the cost will be.
Yeah.
The other fascinating thing was he said, who knows, but 5 years from now, he said the way that the panels. They might get so much more efficient, they swap, they'll swap as they go.
Well, you two guys keep us informed.
Yeah.
I'm excited about a major.
It's a big project.
Big development.
I'd mentioned to him and brought up the fact of Pine Tech and how we're already involved with them and oh, we have a program working with them. And when they talked briefly
Yeah.
about the visibility on I-35 and you got so many people going by that could see it, it's fine with the trees and the shrubbery and everything, to try to hide it, but I guess I look at the other side of why not show it off and try to
Right.
tie it into what we got going down here and try to promote work, the trades, try to tie it into Pine County, the Pine Tech, who we've also already partnered with, and try to show that off. And I just try to think of other places you see along I-35 where there is schools and technical colleges and stuff that take advantage of the fact of that high traffic, like you would in any business, to try to get some advertising off of it. And
Right.
There's gonna be a
try
lot
to
of
build off
maintenance.
that.
Cause every panel has a little electric motor that probably will be just, it's gonna be component driven.
Yep.
Anyway, it's interesting.
Well, they've got the one at the casino and they have 3 full-time employees and it's not near as big. So, yeah, but I want to say thank you for asking the questions because it could affect us in the long run. If something happens and then everybody just walks away, it could become our problem. And so. having this-
That will be built into the,
Yeah, so
agreement
having
with
all
the
those
landowner
questions
and-
asked
yeah,
is
yep.
huge. Thank you.
And just. I don't doubt that, but just as you say that, know that the county has no involvement in the agreement between the landowner
right,
and the solar company, right?
right.
So we say it's in there, we don't see that agreement, we don't know what exactly is in there.
I know, but what is our leverage?
What
There isn't-
what
isn't a lot.
leverage do we have on anybody?
I don't,
We don't have any leverage on this apartment building.
that's my point.
I mean,
But it's nice that you're asking the questions so that, it shows that the thought process is there.
Yeah.
which brings us to the next thing, which is the AMC conference. The first thing I want to do is point out this. The county won this award, which everybody here that sits on this board was part of this. This is an award for the initiative Work Fast Collaborative program that we had. I think the biggest kudo that we could get is that Dakota County received an award and they copied our program. And so anytime somebody copies what you're doing, I think that's the biggest compliment you can ever get. So we really received 2 awards. So give yourselves a pat on the back. The other thing is we got 2 young ladies sitting here that presented at the conference. And I think that's a huge tribute to Pine County and especially to you folks that you've been recognized. They don't pick somebody out of the hat and say, oh, wonder what Becky's doing that day. They pick you guys to present because they understand you're doing good things. And so I compliment you, we compliment you. I think your sessions were well attended by Pine County people, so we know you weren't blowing smoke. You were you were telling the truth, and we knew you would. But thanks for representing Pine County well. We appreciate it. Everybody is gonna have to say something that they learned at that conference, but other than I learned that some things I already knew about the fine staff we had. I went to a session that ties into the solar panel thing, I think, on EV cars. And these major companies are are betting their farm, they're betting their industry on electric cars. And they're betting their industry on renewable energy. And so there was a guy from XL Energy, and if I got the numbers right, he worked for XL for a number of years and was part-time working on electric car distribution systems along with 2 other people. There were 3 people in their department working part-time. They have ramped up now, is it 36?
I think he said 50.
52 people now work in that department because it is gonna become a huge part of their distribution system of how they're gonna distribute power throughout their grid to take care of the electric vehicle demand. And their users, the one guy had been driving electric car for 13 years. So he knows probably as much about driving an electric car as anybody. So it was interesting, I thought, and I thought it tied into what we're potentially have going on in Pine County. But Terry, what did you learn?
My best session was watching Becky talk about family resource centers and just hearing the enthusiasm to know that we're one of the 3 counties that received that grant. But I think we're in front of those other counties on where we've excelled and where we're at with that. And that's due to Becky and her staff and just the diligence that they put into finding out more and what will benefit our county. And so it was a proud moment, but I also learned more things about it, which was really, really good. There was where was that gentleman from? I want to say Virginia, but from, okay, that he came and he talked about all of the different, how many and I wish I had brought my notes. I think there's 3,000 family resource centers nationwide, and they serve over 50 million people. Does that sound right? Yeah, which is just phenomenal to know that, you've got these centers and they can serve that many people.
There's only one in Minnesota right now,
Yep, Scott County's the only one.
and ours will be better.
It will be, yeah.
So what's happening with the daycare, childcare stuff? Is there anything hot button on that down there?
I didn't see.
I know we have a shortage and we talk about it all the time, but we're all on our own with that.
So, but we do have a childcare
Yeah.
group and I'm on that committee too. And I actually got a phone call the other day from Dave Ubel, who's on the Hinckley Finlayson School Board. And he had stated, because the county's not gonna give money to do, we'll help with daycares, but I don't think we have money dedicated to open daycares.
No.
And so he had brought up how expensive it is. And he's got the brain thought of Finlayson Elementary School. Right now, it's a good building and everything, but their attendance is down. So maybe opening a daycare facility there. And I thought, ooh, so I'm hoping to talk to Leslie today and then stop and talk to him somewhere on the way home. But that would be getting one in that would be less or more cost effective to do it. And it would be a good facility and a good location.
Is there still anything happening at Carrick with that one?
Not that I know. I
Oh.
that has some renovations.
But there is a contact between,
Yes.
okay.
Matt, what'd you learn? Sessions you went to? Did you learn anything?
I
new?
spent most of my time on probation, or that was my big one, and two parts. The general discussion for funding and then the work group. But it's the same old tune, and what surprised me was a lot of the commissioners aren't up to as speed as we are on it. The questions they were going at were like where we started, and I don't mean, that's not a drag. I don't know why we were so involved. Terry probably. And anyway, it's good. I don't know what's gonna happen at the legislative session. But the work group, we're pushing hard on to get the funding up where it's supposed to be. There's some that didn't even realize that they were behind. So anyway, and then I went to the open meeting stuff. I'm good. All of it. So.
JJ?
A couple things, I guess. I sat in with the Carleton County folks and their presentation with their jail. And a lot of it was, they're going with the they're not female offenders, they're justice involved females, the involvement with them and the redefinition of that. And they have a new program that they're really trying to just go that route. And then they're talking about the amount that are unfortunately incarcerated and everything. And of course, I had to look at our jail counts, and I think you had more in here than there. So I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what we can do along with what they're trying to do, or maybe take advantage of the fact that there are neighbors to the north and a ways away, but not too far. So I went to that, and then the other thing that I thought was really good was just listen to that presenter when he was talking about the black swan
Yeah.
and the gray rhino, black swan being something so rare, and Rumsfeld back in the day actually used that phrase. And that's not what is gonna get you the rarity of what he tied it to terrorism and everything. We're all looking for that. The gray rhino that's right in front of you, like something that is big and obvious, but no one wants to really deal with. The story that he said where at a nuclear facility in California, to where they had an emergency and they tried getting a hold of it, facility, and the phone was disconnected.
Yeah.
Something that obvious is so easy to fix. And then 3 years later, a bigger emergency happened and they're trying to contact that place again. And it wasn't fixed. Still, they couldn't get through, and it actually resulted in a fatality, and it was bad. Just those, if I'm explaining it right, we're there, but as
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you don't deal with the obvious big thing. You always just assume somebody else is gonna do it. I guess I always tie it back to CPR, first aid being trained. One of the first things you always say is in a crowd, you point out to someone, you call 911.
Right,
Simple, because everyone thinks someone else is gonna do it.
right.
That was neat. I guess then compliance, I'm sure Dave's really good at this. He's probably already on top of it, but just making sure that your records retention is good, your ADA is good, the compliance with everything. And I know Jeff is down there with making sure that everything, certifications are up, everybody is up to date on all that. The guy's name was Graham. What was Gordon? Graham Gordon, I believe, yeah.
It was really good.
But he has a website out there. I wrote down Lexable.com. I don't know if that was.
Yep, and his Lexipol is the company that is the standard for police and sheriff department policies.
Boy, he covered everything. He covered every.
He had are you gonna send out the reading list that?
Yes, I sure can.
So.
And a lot of book, he referenced a lot of.
Mr.
books.
Chair, I do have two more things I want to talk about.
Okay.
But the main one is I went to that.
Let's.
Oh, are you done, JJ?
There's JJ.
I also went to Optum. I was invited over there to go to Optum, a healthcare facility, and it was just interesting to see just the amount of information they have on everybody in every county and everything. They must get it from when you're answering all those questions in the doctor's office. It goes somewhere, and that's where it goes. And they can break down. They had a TV screen bigger this entire room, and they could zoom right into any county, into any town, and all the information that somebody is given.
Is that the one with United Healthcare?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and toured their facility, and pretty impressive of what they know and what they can do, and try to just go after certain, you just know in this area it's diabetes, in this area it's this, in this area it's this, and ethnicity and everything else, with it. So, no, I'm done.
Sorry.
No, that's right.
I just wanted to mention, I went to the session on employee retention and recruitment, which was really good. And it boils down to how creative you can get, and then it's hard to do with tax dollars, but they had some good examples there. And I think we'll hear more about that. I mean, it doesn't pay to discuss them all what you do. And the other one that I went to was the housing. And they did a lot of discussion on ADUs, and I'm going to bring, I don't understand it all yet. And I'm going to bring more of that back. I think after I talk with Kelly and the HRA group too, I think, and it's kind of an interesting concept.
Ancillary
And yeah, additional
dwelling unit,
yeah, and it's
like a granny pod.
have somebody age in place at home. And there's like tax breaks and stuff like that, and you can add little apartments, or if they if you can fit them on the property, they're small. 900 square feet or whatever, but it's an interesting concept.
It's gonna be a
I-
zoning concept too, because a lot of people don't want that second dwelling on there.
I know,
So that's
I know,
gonna- yeah.
it doesn't work for everybody,
Right.
but it's, some
an
people it does.
awesome-
Like, I know we discuss it with farms, like if you transfer your ownership of a farm and it stays in the family and they want to have another little house or whatever, and stay involved, things like that. It's interesting.
I want to thank everybody for coming, going to the conference. Cause I sense excitement from people that we all went to different things and we all picked up something. We all got to have lunch or a coffee or a drink with somebody. And now we know a name of somebody that's doing something that's different. And, whether or not it's what you really can take back to your county, or it's just another good person in life that you can communicate with, it's all valuable. There's a lady that's retiring off her board now her name is Christine Husum.
Yeah.
Matt knows her. My wife actually met her years ago, and my wife loves to read mystery novels. Turns out Christine is a mystery novel writer. And I think she's just published her 13th book. Becky's got them all. I gotta bring a couple of them to workforce meeting tomorrow to have Christine sign, but anyway. There's just a wealth of knowledge that we can learn from our colleagues, and we don't, if we just come to a meeting here and we go home, we don't get that. And now, there's people I can call Lisa Philby and talk about what they're doing in the Wright County. And
No, Sherburne.
Sherburne County with housing, and she knows, she'll pick up the phone, talk to me, cause I know her, cause I've ran into her.
So on Lisa, one of the other things, Steve and I went to the, I can't come up with the name, the one for Native Relations.
The Indian Affairs,
Yeah.
the Indian Affairs meeting.
And Lisa stood up and talked. In Sherburne County, they have a huge piece of land that somebody wanted to have the county purchase. It wasn't a gift. It was, we want it to be a county park, but we want you to purchase it. And so they were working on it, and they found many, many mounds of Indian remains and Native American artifacts on this property. And so she was talking about the relationship where they got the tribes involved right away. And she said, we did some of the things, like they took the stuff out and they thought, okay, we're going to donate it to this museum, or we're going to do what? And then they said, nope, you take it, you write it down, you put a record of it, and then you put it back where you found it.
Yeah.
And so they've been to Washington, DC with this, and they've done all this other stuff. And Washington, DC said that they have never worked with a county that has brought the tribes in from the very, very beginning and did it right. But she was talking about how beautiful this park is going to be. And then it's going to have all of these really good references to what the mounds are and what's located. So it's going to be really a good journey to go over there and see what they've done when they've finished it.
Steve, can I make a comment on the conference? So that speaker on risk was really good, and timing is everything. So next board meeting, the sheriff's office is going to be presenting a request for a grant to update the hazard mitigation plan. And so we know those are the external hazards. That's a category 1. So we'll start at category 1 and move through all 9 of them if we have to. But
So be ready for next week, huh, Jeff?
Thank you all. Any other business we need to?
Truth and taxation tonight.
tonight,
at
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Right in this room.
right in this room. And I tried hard to reduce the number of slides, and I ended up with exactly the same number of slides as last year.
So no other business come before the board. There is a potluck following this at some point. And the Press conference is at noon, and I have the address for that if you're interested.
I'd take that, yeah.
Well,